Okay, this is the face, the front face. As far as the eye and mouth placement, you have two options. You can cut out the eyes, the placement guide right here, cut out that fabric and then place your eyes right there, right now, before you actually sew the face on, or you can wait until all your face is sewn together and the doll is stuffed to decide where you want to place the eyes yourself. There are pros and cons to each. If you like just where these are, then this is a nice, easy way of doing it. It's nice and flat, and it makes it an easy guide. A con about this one is if something happens with your face, it gets a little twisted, or something happens and you don't end up liking the placement afterwards, then it's already attached and your whole face is already put together. So either you have to undo the eyes or just kind of be happy with where they are. Or you can stitch them on after the face is all stuffed. If the face is all stuffed afterwards, then you can kind of guide where it is. It is a little bit trickier to sew on at that point, but that's how I'm going to do it today. So I like to choose the placement afterwards, but really it just depends on what you prefer. So when I stitch my eyes on, I just use a little piece of felt. You can really do whatever you want. I've already seen so many different options of what people have done on the Facebook group that I feel like you guys are great at making that choice on your own. So just do what you feel like you want to do. Another option that I've seen people do is to just paint it on. So that's definitely an option. I love how adding the face adds such a different personality to each doll. So it's a good way of making your doll yours and making it personal to you. So anyway, those are just some options to do and some things to think about in when or how you're going to make your decision. So we're going to start today with an empty face, and then you can do the face however you want to do it. So you start with one front face, and we have the chin as well. So here's the chin piece. So here's the T marking, and the T marking down here is right here in the center of the piece. I've already cut it out. You can see it right there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to line up this T mark to this T mark and sew them together. Okay, so it's important to have your marks on here. We've got our E marks. This is the E marks on the chin. Here's the E marks on the face. This little dot up here is the S mark. That just is where we're going to fold the dart. So we're going to place the face and the chin right sides together, making sure you match up the T marks. See our little notches in there? That's our T mark. We're going to line that up. We're going to pin that into place. Then we're going to curve this around and just line this up, and we're going to match up our E marks. So this is important when we're doing the face, when we're sewing the chin to the face, is when we're sewing, we're going to start and finish at our E dots. We don't want to go all the way to the end of the fabric, because we're going to add another, when we add the back of the face, the hair on, we want that to go on smoothly, and it will go on much smoother if we do not sew clear to the end of the fabric. So just sew from E over to E. So let's do that. Okay, so I sewed from E up and over to E. I went back a little bit because I wasn't quite 1/4 of an inch away, so I just fixed that so it was a little bit more even. So clip your seams here so they open nicely. And then this part is important. When you open this portion right here on each of the sides needs to be pressed open. Whether you do it with just your finger, that's what I always do because I don't always get the iron out, but it needs to be pressed open with your finger or go and iron it. But it needs to be open when we sew that seam to the back of the head. So make sure you open that. If you don't, it will tug funny and the face will have this weird little tug in it. So the whole thing doesn't need to be opened. You can press it a little bit if you want to. Use your finger and press it open. It will make it sit a little nicer when you are done, but it's not as big of a deal as these outside edges. So make sure you press those open, and then they will automatically be open when we get to the next part. So we haven't done our dart yet, so make sure when you're folding your dart you put the right sides together, and then we're gonna sew down right here to the S mark, the dot where we marked earlier. Okay, so there's that seam right there. You can clip it if you want, so it sits better. Okay, so there's our face. Like I said, if you want to, add the eyes and the mouth now. If not, go ahead and wait until the end and stitch it on after the face is all done. Okay, the next thing we need to do is the braids in the back of the hair. So here is the back of the hair, and you're gonna have 6 strips of braids. The braids are super easy. You just have one thing that you need to look out for, and that is which direction your fur or your nap is going. So we want it to be going down the fabric. So look at this minky and what it does. If the fabric is, or if the direction is going down, it sits really nicely. If it's going up, it'll kind of get all this ruffled look to it. So that's a good way of knowing the direction that it's supposed to be going. So when we're doing the braids, we want the braid to the direction of the nap to go down the braid too, so that when you start at the top of the head and play with the braids, the fabric is nice and feels nice from that down. You don't want to go against the grain. So all you do with the 6 braids is you fold it in half. You're going to leave the top open. The top is the part where the nap is, where the top of it, where the start of it, from where it's going down. And then we're going to fold it in half, and then we're going to close this end. So make sure that you're closing the bottom of the nap instead of at the top. Does that make sense? So we want the direction of the braid to go down, the nap to go down with the braid. So we're going to close the end of the braid where the nap, with the direction of the nap. So do that. Let's do that 6 times. Since this is minky, it's kind of annoying, but I definitely recommend pinning, or else you're gonna have kind of wonky braids. So pin your 6 braids and then we will sew them. Okay, so I just sewed all 6 of these and turned them around. I wanted to show you one of them so you could see. You leave this top open, you sew down, and then you close off this side. So once you've closed it off, you want to snip that corner off so that it doesn't bunch up in there. And then I really recommend hemostats for this, but you push it in to get you're gonna bring it right side out is what we're doing. So if you don't have hemostats, then find some other way to bring it wrong side out, but hemostats really do make it easy. So there you go, so we're turning it right side out. Okay, since we have all 6 strands done, we are ready to attach it into the dart of the back of the head. So what I like to do is we gotta find the open end, and then I make sure that this stitch line is going down. So you can overlap them a little bit the way that you want to. And then we're gonna place them inside this dart. If you need to, you can cut up the dart a little bit to get them up in the braid, get them up in the dart a little bit higher. The one thing that you need to watch out for is that you leave yourself a 1/4 of an inch down here at the bottom. You need a 1/4 of an inch for when we attach it to the side of the face. So leave that there. We're gonna cover this over like this. And then we are going to stitch that closed. If you're finding that you're having a hard time getting over that hump, try starting in the middle of the hump and working your way out from both directions. It's a lot easier to go off of a hump than it is to go over one. So if your machine doesn't like that bulk of all that fabric, consider starting in the middle and working your way off in both directions. So do that on both sides, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so we have the braids in. The next thing we need to do is actually attach these two together. So here is where the neck piece is. So this is the back. This side right here is going to be the back of the head. And here is the same thing on this one. So this line right here, where the back of the head is actually the one that we're going to stitch up. So we're gonna go from the tip here, and we're just gonna go like 1 inch or 1.5 inches, just enough to line it all, get it attached so that we can attach it to the side of the head. So let's do that. So here it is attached. Okay, let's do the bangs. So to do the bangs, we have one that is skin colored, and then we have another one that is hair colored. So depending on which way you placed it when you cut it on the fabric, your part is either going to be on this side of the fabric or on this side for your right side. It doesn't obviously matter, it's probably more of a preference choice than anything, but so the first thing that we're going to do is so this dart, the dart helps it so that it goes around the face of the doll once they're both stuffed. So we want the seam of both ends to be on the inside of each other, so that means we have to sew them opposite. So we're gonna sew this one this way, and then we're gonna sew this one this way. Then when we open it up, see how the seam will sit inside of each other? So let's do that. Let's sew this line and then we'll sew this one. Okay, so here it is sewn together. So this actually, we're gonna put these wrong side together. When they're done, they're gonna be wrong side together. They're like that, obviously. So see how the seam matches? So cut your seam a little bit so it'll sit nicely. You can open them so they're flat and they cut, or they reduce bulk. We're gonna put, for now, we're gonna put the right sides together, and then we're gonna sew from around here up and then down to this other edge. So here it is sewn. We went from here to here. Make sure that you clip so it sits nicely. Whoa, that was close. I didn't realize I was so far off, so I'm gonna restitch a little piece of that. Get it a little bit closer so it doesn't fray. So I just reinforced that so that it will not fray. So what we're going to do is turn it wrong side out, or right side out, excuse me. And we're going to attach it to the front of the face. So in knowing your direction that this is supposed to be, the skin color should be facing the skin, or should be touching the skin color on this. So if you marked your A line up here at the top, we're going to line that up with the seam, which is also your A point, and we're going to pin all the way down. So I want you guys to notice that this comes out a little bit. It's supposed to, so when we're going to line it up so that it comes out to the end, okay? Or to lines up with the side of the face. We want it to line up with the side of the face. It pushes it in a little bit so that when we stuff the face, it gives it more room to push the bangs out too. So let's pin that. Okay, I also want to show you guys that you can pull the skin, the back of the hair, up a little bit over the edge of this fabric and between the two of them so it hangs out a little bit more. That will keep it from hanging out the bottom when down here. So instead of seeing this part, we want to see the yellow. So okay, so we have the bangs all pinned up. They are centered. These, if you marked on the side, these EE markings, that is where the end of your bangs should go. So that helps you to center them better too. So now that that's on, we can start pinning up this. So this top part, it will line up with the AA again. So right here, we'll line them up and we'll go all the way around to the neckline, which is right here. So we're gonna pin clear to here, up from here around and then back again and around. So let's do that. Okay, so remember when you get to this part that you need to keep the seam allowance on this side open. Okay, so once again, I like to baste here, and then I go around after basting. I check everything, I open it up, make sure everything's okay, and then I go around and stitch it with the regular stitch length. So again, that's your choice if you want to baste it or not, but I recommend basting. Check it out. Okay, some areas that you want to look for. Look at your bangs or your braids and make sure that your braids all are in there. Make sure you don't have anything weird hanging out. But actually that's not even in your basted part anyway, but it's a good thing to do. Make sure this seam right here is not tugging weird. On both sides, make sure both seams are open so it can open too. If you have one of the seams sitting open or closed, it's gonna tug weird. So make sure those are both open. Make sure right here at the edge of your bangs that both of those are tucked in nicely, and that everything looks good. Okay, I think we're ready to sew it for real. After we get that all done, I think we are ready to stitch the head to the body. Let's do our clips. So here's our face.